Breaking massive news here at Occupy Democrats. Caught red-handed. Donald Trump, oh, what a tangled web we weave and we practice to deceive, because his favorite thing is to point fingers, but there's three pointing back. And the reality is, whatever Donald Trump says and blames others for doing, he's doing himself, because we had good warning about this massive breaking story you don't want to miss. Remember when this was said about one of his insiders 3 years ago after his first term here?
What was the most disturbing thing that the president said during that meeting on June 1st?
The president is ranting at the room, using a lot of foul language. You know, you all are effing losers.
And of course, Trump always plays the oh, poor me card.
Oh, he's weaponizing government. Trump is weaponizing government. It's terrible. Can you imagine? They say to me about weaponize, I don't weaponize anything.
But after getting elected to a second term, he says this at the State of the Union.
We've ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting president is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent, like me.
We were warned, we knew, and yet MAGA plus a ton of other dependents voted him right back in.
We're at a different spot now. He's going to finally give a direct order to deploy paratroopers into the streets of Washington, D.C., and I'm thinking with weapons and bayonets.
So what does he do? He invents a problem and a definition for Antifa.
Do you plan on designating Antifa finally a domestic terror organization?
Well, it's something I would do, yeah. If I have support from the people back here, I think we'd start with Pam, I think, but I would do that 100%, and others also, by the way, but Antifa is terrible.
To allow him to claim this.
The Insurrection Act is a tool at the president's disposal. As you know, it has been used sparingly, but it has been used by previous presidents in American history.
And sadly, we knew he wanted to shoot people 3 years ago.
What specifically was he suggesting that the U.S. military should do to these protesters?
He says, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something.
The commander-in-chief was suggesting that the U.S. military shoot protesters.
Yes, in the streets of our nation's capital.
And now there are 2 innocent American citizens dead in Minnesota while he continues to say this.
Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law.
So in this breaking story, it's all about Trump, but one of his besties, Pam Bondi, basically buried Trump while she was being excoriated in her hearing just up on the Hill because she let the cat out of the bag and the truth of Trump's tyrannical totalitarianism came to light. Check this freaking story out right here.
Pam Bondi admits DOJ has a secret domestic terrorist list. Attorney General Pam Bondi for the first time acknowledged the existence of a secret list of domestic terrorist organizations during a House Judiciary Committee hearing on Wednesday. I know Antifa is part of that, Bondi said under questioning about the list from Representative Mary Gay Scanlon, D. Pennsylvania, the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee's Subcommittee on Constitution and Limited Government. Bondi refused to offer any further details about the domestic terrorist organization database being compiled under President Donald Trump's National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, or NSPM 7. The goal was to get her, even by denying that she would produce it, to acknowledge that it existed and then raise the alarm, Scanlon told The Intercept. The Justice Department had previously refused to acknowledge the list to The Intercept, despite being asked scores of questions about it over a period of months. NSPM 7, which conflates constitutionally protected speech and political activism with domestic terrorism, a term that has no basis in U.S. law, specifically targets those that espouse what the administration defines as anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, anti-fascism, and radical gender ideologies, as well as those with hostility toward those who hold traditional American views. An implementation memo Bondi issued in December directed the FBI to compile a list of groups or entities engaged in acts that may constitute domestic terrorism. The initial report was to be submitted to Bondi on January 3rd with regular updates issued every 30 days. Bondi's revelation that she has a working domestic terrorist list came during 4 hours of back and forth with lawmakers that mostly focused on the recently released DOJ files related to the convicted ex-offender Jeffrey Epstein. When repeatedly asked if she would commit to providing the House Judiciary Committee with the NSPM 7 list, Bondi snapped, "I'm not going to commit to anything to you because you won't let me answer questions." After Scanlon clarified that this meant Bondi now had a secret list of people or groups that you are accusing of domestic terrorism, but you won't share it with Congress. Asked about the NSPM 7 list, the FBI told The Intercept that it had no comment. Federal officers frequently confront and threaten those observing, following, and filming them for impeding their efforts. In numerous instances, they have unholstered or pointed weapons at the people who filmed or followed them. Both Renee Good and Alex Priddy were killed by federal agents in Minneapolis while observing immigration agents. When asked if Good or Priddy were on any domestic terrorism list or watch list or under surveillance by federal authorities, a Bureau spokesperson said, "The FBI has no comment." The administration is keeping lists of Americans who the White House says are engaged in domestic terrorism. Those lists could include Americans who have not committed any acts of terrorism but simply disagree with this administration, people like Renee Good and Alex Priddy, Scanlon noted during the Wednesday hearing. Bondi's Justice Department memo claims that certain Antifa-aligned extremists profess extreme viewpoints on immigration, radical gender ideology, and anti-American sentiment, and a willingness to use violence against law-abiding citizenry to serve those beliefs. Over the last decade, Republicans have frequently blamed Antifa for violence and used it as an omnibus term for left-wing activists, as if it were an organization with members and a command structure. In September, Trump signed an executive order designating Antifa as a domestic terror organization, despite the fact that it is essentially a decentralized leftist ideology. A collection of related ideas and political concepts, much like feminism or environmentalism. "This is really bad," the president wrote on Truth Social, "and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors, lock them up." A follow-up post read, "Seditious behavior punishable by death." Trump also reposted a comment, "Hang them, George Washington would." Scanlon told The Intercept that while it was clear that Bondi was not going to provide substantive answers, the hearing did allow her and her colleagues to raise the alarm on a number of issues, including NSPM 7. Every day, we're seeing this administration weaponize government to go after people who disagree with it, whether it's shooting citizens who protest or trying to indict members of Congress who suggest that it's giving illegal military orders or trying to go after attorneys general around the country. It's not one isolated thing, Scanlon said. It's connected to a whole bunch of areas where the government isn't doing its job and instead is just pursuing the president's political enemies. It's truly frightening.
Not that we didn't know, but now we have the evidence. We all know. This is exactly what Trump's doing. It goes back to the Charlie Rose interview 30-some plus years ago when he says he loves revenge, and that is all he cares about. He cares about money, power, ego, revenge, and that is all he's using the presidential pulpit for, and it's not going to stop. You guys, like and share the video. Stay frosty.